Hey. Okay, so hopefully you can hear me. I have double checked that we are on the right microphone. It just randomly picks a different I don't know. Okay, so welcome to Madness and Mayhem episode 5. We're going to go into the net zero Spanish and then excuse me, French and other parts of Europe, a blackout, Trump's blue suit, the UK local elections, which are tomorrow, and not all across the UK, just certain parts of the UK, and then overcome the mind mayhem. We're talking about this one emotion literally revives the dead, like legit true story. Okay, but first we're going to dive into the net zero Spanish blackout. Now it's really kind of hilarious because obviously everybody's been pushing net zero in Spain, particularly. They kind of got rid of all of their dam, the water and the dams, and they were like 100% net zero, not net zero, green. You know, everybody's green. We're all using solar panels and wind turbines, which are really environmentally harmful, and then all of a sudden there's no fucking power. So why am I kind of talking about this with regards to being a PsyOps? Well, we have got like that's a legit possibility. We also have people kind of attempting to say it's because they pulled the plug on the money that they were giving Israel. I don't believe that. The reason being is Trump's back in office. And if you watch my video that says, have you ever thought about what the word Israel means? And you kind of, if you've actually looked into Israel, you'll know that it's kind of like, I mean, they joke about Canada being the 51st state, but Israel quite literally is, right? It's owned by the USA. And so I don't think that Trump is going to be causing blackouts or cyber attacks. It doesn't mean that there's not like factions, but actually there's more of a legit reason, right? Is they just being, you know, climate tards. And so obviously what's really hilarious is we've got energy companies in the UK pushing solar farms. We've also got, like, my council is now pushing to get another huge solar farm. At the same time, the government's spending 50 million to block out the sun, right? And for all of those who were kind of chatting away with me in maybe 2021, 2022, do you remember that they were trying to do this? And it was Bill Gates was trying to block out the sun, and we were all called nuts. And actually, they'd penned in the day stroke time they were going to do it. And then it got kiboshed because everyone was like, don't you fucking dare, you nut jobs. Well, it looks like they've just passed the baton to the UK government, who are going to do it anyway, right? Who gives a shit, right? And what's really interesting, obviously, Miliband is like, you know, a net zero zealot. And then there was Lee Anderson kind of brought it up in the Houses of Parliament. And then he was called a nut job for saying it. It's literally across like mainstream news. And what's really interesting about this is I was talking to people the other day who are not kind of like my and your type people, right? They're normal people. I say normal, they're still very much asleep. And it was one of them who just went, oh my God, have you seen, like, they're blocking out the sun? Like, this is like, where did this come from? And I was just like, oh, they've been like geoengineering for years. It was called like cloud seeding. Look back at 1900s. I mean, the Americans did it over Vietnam. They extended the monsoon season. Was called Operation Popeye. The RAF did it in the 50s, and they like caused a flood in Norfolk, and 35 people died. Like, none of this is new. They've literally been doing it for over 100 years. But I think they're just now they're telling us about it. And like everybody, like, you know, when it goes silent, there's like a pin drop. And I was just like, oh yeah, don't worry about it. I was just like, okay, so now you guys are finally catching up, right? But I remember on Twitter, which is X, like I posted something about maybe I posted just an image of the chemtrails. I was like, for fuck's sake. And it was 5 o'clock in the morning while I was walking the dogs. I was like, oh my God, they're up early, or something along those lines. I literally had like hundreds of people calling me nuts, you fucking idiot. And you try to educate them by giving them, you know, the UN Convention on using global weather modification. You maybe give them the information that says, Dubai caused so much rain. They had a flood recently. China saying that they could make it rain for 2/3, and they're like, oh, that's not chemtrails. You're like, how do you think they're doing this? Yes, the HARP, yes, stomp technology, but also cloud seeding. And they're like, that's not geo engineering, that's cloud seeding. And you're like, what do you think that is? Like, you get to the point where you're like, okay, but they're literally changing the weather as weather modification, whether you call it cloud seeding, whether you call it geoengineering. They're literally up there spraying shit out of the aeroplanes. And this is from like whistleblowers, aeroplane pilots, like military aeroplane pilots, whistleblowing, saying they're doing this. And I shared their testimonies, and these people were like just going absolutely batshit. So I'm hoping after this last week, they have been eating some serious fucking humble pie, but chances are they haven't even seen it, right? And what was really interesting is I also, in that kind of group of people, I was like, yeah, you're not really my people, but I'm just gonna, I drip feed bits of information where I can. One of the others kind of like piped up and went, didn't Saudi Arabia kind of like cause a flood a couple of years ago with something along those lines? And I was like, yes they did. And when like you kind of like look at someone and you're like, you got a tinfoil hat in your back pocket, when you just kind of like give them that look, be like, I think you and me are on the same wavelength, and we've just kind of like sussed each other out. And that was, there was another person who I kind of had a conversation with maybe a few months ago, and they were like, you kind of said BlackRock, and I was just like, yes. She's like, you know who BlackRock is? And I was like, yes. And she was like, do you know, really like, do you know? And I was like, do you know? Because you're just so fed up of everybody thinking you're nuts. But it's obviously all coming out in the wash now, right? So that's kind of the net zeros, but it's just you have to watch the shill farms, right, pushing the anti-Israel narrative, right? So we've got to be really careful about anybody pushing anything to do with, and I'm not saying like Israel are right with what they're doing with, genocide is never right. And actually, if you've been kind of in my X circle, you'll see that I share both sides of what's going on in Israel and Gaza, right? I do not agree with people calling for genocide of Jews or Palestinians. I think genocide is wrong. I don't agree with murder. I don't agree with state-sanctioned murder. I don't even agree with murdering terrorists. Like, I genuinely believe people should be arrested. They should be imprisoned. Like, how can all the God-based people, right, where Abrahamic religions, whether you're Muslim or Christian or Jewish, thou shalt not kill, right? That's literally one of your 10 commandments. Like you believe God has told you this, right? I don't believe God has told you this, but you believe God has told you. I just think it's morally wrong, right? I choose not to. I choose not to celebrate like murder, but you believe that unless you do these 10 things, you're going to hell. But you think it's okay because this other person is a terrorist, right? So what are you? Like, it's like the fact that people can't see the hypocriteness. I know that's probably not a word, but can't actually perceive the fact that you are calling them a terrorist, but you are a terrorist to them and their nation, right? There's no excuses for killing somebody, and especially if you believe in God and redemption and forgiveness and all of these things about being on a journey and having to learn to forgive others, forgive yourself, redeem your soul. Like, how can you do that if you've just wiped somebody out? Like, at what point are you giving them an opportunity to turn to the Creator? Like, surely that's your job, right? This is why I get very frustrated very frustrated with religious people who just are hypocrites, right? Purebred hypocrites. So I do not believe in the assassination program where we are assassinating terrorists. If you think they're a threat, put them on trial. Like that's like you either treat people like people or you don't. And how can you garner respect from somebody else if you are behaving like a psychopath, right? No, it's all right. We'll just bomb that person. That person's a terrorist. We're going to get rid of them. And then we get really upset when they try and do it back, right? Like, I mean, and I'm not asking for terror. I'm not saying that we deserve it. I'm not saying the general population on any kind of soil deserves to be, mown down by a car or drone chased like the police in the UK are going to do now. If you fly tip, you're going to be drone chased, right? With Chinese tech, right? So we've got the security services saying, don't plug your phone into an electric vehicle because it's Chinese technology, forgetting that the police are using Chinese drones. And forgetting that the government decided it would be a good idea to use Amazon Web Services to host gov.uk. So that's all the military sites, all the secret services sites, all the government sites on Amazon Web Server. And Amazon do, they work in China, which means they have a backdoor to the, when you just like bigger picture. And then obviously we had the Chinese spy who was like chilling around the Queen. There was a couple in Parliament. Like, I think, me plugging in my phone to an electric vehicle, which I won't have, like I don't have because I'm not, a climate tard. But, okay, so the main thing we're talking about with Net Zero Spanish Blackout is pay attention to the people who are just pushing civil war narrative, right? So there are 5 plans to bring about the destruction of humanity, right? So, and again, why do they need to destroy humanity? Well, you can either bring about the return of the Messiah by doing lots of good stuff, or you can just be like so horrific they have to come and save you, right? So they picked a path and they picked like bad path. So they have 5 plans, which is, a nuclear war, which is, contagious disease, which was supposed to be the Black Plague, but they tested it, Black Plague. It's not... it wasn't contagious enough. It stressed them out. We have like war, whether that's civil or world. We have financial crash, stroke decline. Why do I always forget the 5th one? Economic, nuclear, war, plague. It's 5. There is 5. I did an entire show on whose plan. I don't know, anybody pushing any bullshit, right? Oh, there we go. The 5th one is weather-based bullshit, right? So volcanoes, earthquakes, floods, right? That kind of shit. So geo-engineered death traps is number 5. So we see all that. Anybody who's kind of like pushing war though and division, like just no. And with no proof, like lots of these people are just like it's speculation, and people are still so trapped and blind to the con that people just eat it up, and it's harmful and makes me sad. Okay, so number 2, Trump's blue suit. Oh my God. This drove, and this was at the funeral of the Pope. And, his funeral was timed with like a celestial event, like a pagan worshipping celestial event, because, that's Catholic. But that, we had the mainstream media saying Trump's disgusting human, should be assassinated, probably because that's what they keep saying about, Trump all the time, because he dared to wear this blue suit, and how dare he, because they zoomed in. And then we have the controlled opposition going, Trump's a badass. He's telling everybody, like, I don't give a shit. because they were using the zoomed in images. And then you zoom out and there's loads of fucking people wearing a blue suit, right? So there's literal both sides of the again, both sides of the supposed like media, both saying the same thing but from different reasons, right? It was ludicrous. Sorry, it was absolutely ludicrous, and it drove me more batty. The gazillions of shares and quotes and like just pushing it, Trump, 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 and I'm like, stop being, just stop. Like, it's 2025. We are trying not to be nuked, and you're behaving like you were like at least 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 2020. But by sounds of things, like it was happening in 2016, right? We don't need that bullshit. We need people being real people and spreading the truth, right? So if you want to counter the mainstream narrative, you go, well, that's bullshit because here's a proper photo, right? And on Twitter, well, X, you just community note the fuck out of them, right? And then it's tough shit. They can't spread their bullshit because everyone's like, nope. And then you go into the comments of the on the web pages, right, on their newspaper articles. You'd be like, well, that's not true because there was this person, this person, this person. Like, that's we shouldn't have to be doing that to people who are supposed to be good people, right? So, if everybody just like unfollowed, I mean, I get really annoyed because I'm not even following 90% of these fucking clowns, and they still show up in my feed because of the algorithm. Like, I need like that's what we need, like a clown button, right? We need like to be able to just be like, press the clown button, and then they get like de-pushed, right? So I mean, I'm like shadow banned like within an inch of my social media life, right? And I'm not pushing like people into war. I'm not pushing anything which is causing harm, and maybe that's why I'm shadow banned. But they are doing it still. That's what we need. We need a clown button, and enough people call us, but I suppose like people just call me a clown. It's fine. It doesn't matter. Won't affect me. I'm already shadow banned, right? But yeah, Trump's blue suit drove me fucking crackers. Knew the mainstream media was going to do it, right? And I'm waiting to see, I'm picking my mum up from the airport next Wednesday. So next week's show is Tuesday at 7. And then we'll be back to normal on Mondays. I can't wait to be in the car with my mum on the way back from the airport and her say, oh my God, did you see Trump? I mean, she's been over in Sicily. So, and she was raised a Catholic. So she's kind of like she's a secret Catholic because we never really did it in the house. But I remember like a couple of times of being like, oh my God, this whole God thing. And she got like really defensive. It's just like strange. Anyway, so I'm waiting for her, and I'll be like, oh my God, I know. Did you see how many people were wearing blue suits? XYZ. That's let's just I mean, just like, that's where we should be spending our efforts, just because they cause newly awake people so much harm. Like, when I was newly, I mean, so being awake to the con of bullshit for quite some time, awake to the fact that they want to kill us all was like very early 2020, with like, me going, why are they locking us down? This just doesn't make sense. Like, legit, if you look at the timeline, like, everybody's already got it. Like, I couldn't fathom why they were posing this was a good idea. And at the same time, the high consequence infectious disease department was just like, oh yeah, no, don't worry about it. It's got a really low mortality rate. So like literally around April 2020, I was just like, this shit doesn't make sense. Like, where are the where are the ambulances? Why are they coming on TV and like doing like 3-point plan and propaganda and using sales and marketing and techniques and using psychological warfare techniques at me? Like, what's all this bullshit about? So I then kind of, fall down the rabbit hole, and I got sucked in for maybe 3 months by bullshitty people. And I was just like, yo, you guys are chatting shit out of your ass, because at no point are any of you giving me any kind of references. You're just saying shit, right? And I don't like people just saying shit. So even when I'm working with my clients, like, they just get like references. They get referenced to, I don't like using the phrase to death, but they get referenced like this, because I was trained to like, why do you believe that? Who said that? Where did you get that information from? Right? Because then I can decide to believe you or not believe you. And you never just like, I just tell me why you know that. And it was this whole insider information, and I was like, fuck off if you got insider information. And if you have, you're doing a really shit job at being like an operative, because like spies and police that go undercover, like, they don't go around on social media and be like, oh yeah, I've infiltrated XYZ gang, but shh, I've got insider information. Like, it was really obvious within a couple of months. But other people are so desperate, maybe they don't have the strength of character, because maybe they're struggling emotionally for whatever reason, that they will be drawn to an in-group, right? This is a psychological technique, right? In-groups and out-groups is people need to feel wanted and needed, and need to feel like they are part of something, that they're important, and they will just, you know, always do that. They're the other, right? So they will get more and more and more attached to the people who have helped them understand what's going on, and it will be really, really difficult for them to actually see the bullshit. And as we get further down it's not revelation with regards to biblical bullshit, revelation of all of these people are gang raping and then torturing children for power and energy. They have been stealing your money. They have been, you know, fusing humans and animals underground. They have been creating super soldiers for 150 years at least, and then they've been growing them on an island. They have been all of the other shit that's about to come out, right? They don't need the added mental breakdown of the fact that they were following somebody who's like a bullshitter, right? I get really angry when I get tagged in posts by people who are shills, like really angry, and I shouldn't. But I'm just like, oh my God, like, I've wasted my time. Like, why somebody sent me that shit? Don't send me that shit. There you go. Just if you're here, don't send me, like, if I think they're a shit, I don't even care what they're saying at all, because it's just going to make me angry. I don't care. You can say whatever they like, unless you kind of like want me to go in and just like dispel the bullshit, but then give me a heads up, because they just get tagged in shit, and I'm like, why am I tagged in this shit? Anyway, okay, so Trump's through suit, awesome. Awesome PsyOp to watch, right? So go and use a search engine and search out Trump's blue suit, right? And then just see, just that, like, you will see both sides. And there are websites now that kind of do show you both sides of a narrative, which is quite cool. I mean, you have to pay for it, but you can always just use an AI for free. I think you can use a Grok for free, even though I don't think you need an X account either anymore. I think you can literally just like download the Grok app and then use it for free. But I use Brave browser, and that has Leo as well, who's free, right? He's a free AI. I don't know, you know, it's called Leo, so I'm going to call it a man. Grok's a man to me. I don't know why. Maybe it's because his name. The name just kind of sounds like, I don't know. It doesn't sound like a feminine name. And obviously remember, like, women are women, because, you know, it's now legal. It's now true. It wasn't true before, but it is now. Okay, and so finally, with regards to the absolute madness, is the UK local elections. And I kind of touched on this last week with regards to reform, how they are pushing and pushing and pushing. Reform's going to take over, Labour are going to be wiped out, blah, 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 to stop people voting, right? So for those of you who aren't in the UK, and maybe some of you in the UK don't really understand why maybe you're not getting the opportunity to vote. So basically, we have fixed elections based on so many years. So I think that's every 4 years there is a local council election, and there only used to be X number of councils, and then they created more councils. So Telford and Wrekin was created as a council back in 2007, and there was lots of councils created around then. So every 4 years from that. So we had our local election 2003, and so other councils are having theirs now because they were before 2007, maybe they were created after, but basically they redraw boundaries to make sure there's roughly the same number of residents per per MP and per constituent, per council, right? So it's about, and then if there's not, they need to give more money and they'll just create a new one. So I have no idea what the fuck's going to happen with Telford, because we've literally doubled in size and we still have, and Telford rather than Telford and Wrekin. So Wrekin has an MP, Telford has an MP, and Telford's MP is now definitely got twice as many people. So there'll probably be more boundaries, more cash, and more, and now they're bringing mayors and all of those things. So that's why not everyone is having an election. So they were pushing, obviously Farage was going to wipe everything out, and then they were trying to put people off voting for reform by saying they're doing a back, the Conservatives and Reform are doing a backdoor deal. But then we have, very interesting, is Tony Blair. That man should be in prison, right? In prison, because he needs to redeem himself in the eyes of Big G. Everybody should have the opportunity. I mean, or just commit, right? Just be the 95 psycho and commit to being a bad person. That's fine. In the next dimension, that's fine. But it's their choice. We just need to give them the opportunity to choose. You can choose to be good, or you can choose to be a psycho. So Tony Blair's come out and saying that they need to stop being so psychotic about net zero, right? Which is really strange, because he has been pushing this bullshit. Do you remember he was supposed to be take over for the WEF for a little bit, and then they ended up choosing somebody else, but he's been kind of pushing Labour policies in the background. He's kind of like Obama under Joe Biden's term. So he is a war criminal, right? He's a criminal, and his wife's a criminal, because she has been getting criminals off and living in luxury for decades, right? So criminals everywhere. Okay, so local elections are happening tomorrow. If you get an opportunity to vote for an independent who's an actual independent, right? So we've got some sheep in wolf's clothing with independent standing, and they're actually Labour or Liberal or I would just go and do some social media stalking and diligence before you vote. And similarly, if you've got a reform candidate, go and vote, right? Because not necessarily go and vote. I mean, do go and vote, but make sure you do your due diligence that actually that reform person is a proper person you want to vote for, right? So we also have the Muslim Alliance, right? There's those Muslim Alliance groups, and we had the Scottish ex-First Minister, or is he still the First Minister? I don't know, Hamza Yousaf, saying, you need to make sure you're being elected to the Muslims. You need to make sure you're, being elected. We need to make sure we change this country. Drives me crackers. If you want to live in a Muslim country, go to one of the Muslim countries. If you've come here because you're escaping oppression in your country because it's under Sharia law, or because it's you know, you're escaping from China and it's got communism, or if you're escaping your country and you want to move to the United Kingdom, please don't turn the United Kingdom into your country. Like, because if you can't see how that's like just bonkers, like, I feel really sorry for you. So we're going to have, I think Birmingham, the entirety of Birmingham will be gone. Bradford will be gone. Like, they will no longer have the illusion, right? So this is what you get from the two-party system. You get the illusion of Conservatives and the illusion of Labour. Like, there were things that the Conservatives, even though it's all a uni party, even though it's all controlled, there's things that the Conservatives couldn't do, right? So they tried to do a few things under COVID, and the Conservative members went absolutely batshit, right? So, and that's the money, right? So now we've got, and they actually do control quite a lot, right? The local councils control quite a lot. Like, the actual MPs don't control very much. The legislative branch has been in control forever, and that's been infiltrated anyway, right? So it's been infiltrated. In the USA, you have DEI. Over here, we have similar sort of bullshit. Equality and diversity, ED, equality and diversity, bullshit. Do I think Reform will take lots of seats? I don't know. I'm going to say I don't know, because they have geoengineered it to be a very hot day, right? And I've spoke about the weather before and why the weather's important on elections. So they have geoengineered it to be a very hot day, which means Labour supporters will be out in force. They have the infrastructure ready, right, to literally boss people all over and get out the vote, right? So Reform will be relying on people who are working people, who have kids, who have families, to actually go and do it, right? So I'm not saying they won't, but statistically, when there's sunshine, Conservative leaning parties don't do very well. Like, they do very well in the rain, because Labour voters are snowflakes. But the infrastructure with regards to get out the vote. So how did we, you know, in Telford, we had the farmers, we had the hunt. The hunt came from all across Shropshire. This is why the Labour Party shopped me to the police and to Channel 4 to say that I deserve to go to prison, because I was secretly paying all the volunteers, because there's no way we could get the volunteers. We had loads of volunteers, but we also had the entire hunt, because it was only Telford that was a swing seat, right? Everywhere else was like solid Conservative, right? So we literally had the hunt show up at like 5 o'clock in the morning on election day, and they fucking move, right? So Lucy did a deal with them. Like, I will vote for you to be able to keep hunting, right? That's how politics is. And I don't care if anybody says it, like, that's literally what happened. We had a meeting where all of the hunt people came, and she had to agree that, and this is nothing big, right? This is just getting some help to put leaflets through the door. She had to make a deal with how she would vote once she got into Parliament and the hunt vote was up. And she was against hunting. I mean, I just didn't really care. Like, I think people, I mean, at the time, I thought it sounded like quite fun, right? Like, I was like, but, I mean, you know, the whole ripping, I mean, dogs are dogs, right? Anyway, but she made a deal, right, to get the hunt out. So the minute Channel 4 rang me to find out why I'd been fudging my election expenses, like, I was just like, go through Mike expenses. I don't care. Just take me to the police. I'm quite happily say what kind of backroom deals happened to make sure there was people out. But also that we had loads of people who'd been recruited, right? So, and I was a fucking good campaign manager, like really good campaign manager. I turned it from Labour to Conservative in a Labour stronghold, supposedly. Right, so the infrastructure. So we had been we also had there was a national campaign called, I can't remember what it was called, 2020 or 4040, I don't know, whatever it was called. There was a national campaign to get people to volunteer in their local area. We had national volunteer coordinators. We have the Conservative Party have an entire system that enables you to put postcode in, and then it literally creates a walking route of 100 houses, and then you can print out the exact number of so you have 100 leaflets, you have a map, you make sure that nobody's crossing over, you have your leaflets in different colors. They have like not printed, well, it's kind of like a huge copy machine that like churns stuff out at super cheap. Like the actual logistics of get out the vote and I'm not sure that Reform has that logistical structure, right? They and it'll matter because it's sunny, right? So it'll matter more because it's sunny. And it was sunny in 2023 when Labour retained the council. It was sunny last year when Labour took Parliament, right? Legit. It's proper science. Statistics, that's the word. Give me 2 seconds. So do I think they will get some seats? I hope so, because that'd be funny, right? A little bit funny. But also I just if they've had postal votes, right? So postal votes. So there's the get out of the vote during the day. Then there is the count, right? Have they been training people to be like on the ball at the count, right? Have they made sure that every single councillor who's there has taken their, like, I think they could, like, 2 people can come with them, and they're all 3 people are going to be there checking to make sure that things are not going awry. And if it's a postal vote fucking town, then they're not going to win, right? That is going to be stuff for Labour already. Right, same as what happens over here in Telford, same as what happened with Brexit, right? So the postal votes will already swing it. So you have to be on the ball at the count, right? And I've been twice. And the amount of people who are up, to be councillors, and they're just like swanning around because they've got no idea what to do, right? They legit don't understand. It is your responsibility to be stood there like a fucking like sergeant major, paying attention to which pile they're putting your votes in. Right, because they do it quickly, and you've got like 6 or 7 people all counting your wards at exactly the same time. Like, if you don't have the people there, it's very easy for a fucking lefty lunatic, because most councils use council staff to count the votes. Right, they lefty lunatics will quite happily just fucking put yours over there. Right? The amount of times I'd say that's my fucking vote, love. My vote. They do it. They're just sneaky fuckers, right? Okay, so we've got the local elections tomorrow, so we'll see what happens. We'll find out Friday. Okay, so last 20 minutes or so, less than. So this one emotion literally revives the dead. So this is a legit true story. And actually it's happened multiple times. And for the life of me now, I cannot remember the lady's name. So if you give me like a minute, I will give you the lady's name. Of the kind of like the first time I heard, the first kind of person I found, but I also know it's happened multiple times. Because so you can go and, you know, fact check me. I don't care. Where are we? It is really hot, but I've got my cardi on because it's building a box to stop my milk delivery being stolen. And even though I moved around, I still ended up getting burnt to a crisp. And actually, considering they're like, you know, trying to melt us at the moment, I found out there's a supplement that you can take that means you don't have to take sun cream. So I mean, I haven't worn sun cream for a very long time, and that was not, it wasn't to do with the chemicals. It's just I didn't like being like human flypaper, right? So I would just hide because I burn really quickly, right? Because I had skin issues as a kid. So just like, you know, hey, sunshine, lobstered. So it's quite impressive that every single year, the first day of the sun, I'm like, Katie's like my entire shoulders and back are like just fucked. And then it doesn't happen for the rest of the summer, but not because, you know, I've built up a tolerance, just because I'm militant about where I am and where the sunshade is. Okay, so supposedly, that somebody just fucked with my screen. And again, so supposedly there's this supplement you can take, which enables you to not need sun cream. So well, you know, there was that whole supposedly nuss with regards to carnivore, but I haven't had that yet. I no longer have hay fever, which is great. So it's called astaxanthin. So I've got it naturally sourced from algae. I don't mind having like sea-based stuff. It's a carotenoid. Tell you how it goes. I mean, so it just means I'll have to wait until this sunburn disappears and then just go. I'm always experimenting on myself. I know what it feels like to get sunburnt, so I will towards the end of the summer, I will get out in the sunshine and tell you whether I've burnt myself to a crisp again or not. And hopefully it'll be the not side of things. Okay, so the lady, right? So in 2010, Katie Ogg, that's OGG, gave birth to her son, Jamie. He was born prematurely at 27 weeks and he weighed 2 pounds. He was pronounced stillborn by doctors, right? They spent 20 minutes trying to revive him, nada. And so then the mum and dad were given their son to hold and say goodbye to. So Jamie, the mum, took him from his blanket and held him against her skin. So proper skin to skin contact as she cradled him and said her goodbyes, right? So after a couple of hours, mum was convinced that Jamie was alive. Like she felt like really small kind of like micro movements. And she kept telling the doctors, you know, like, I'm sure he's moving. And obviously they automatically say, no, it's not true. Like he's not moving. That can't happen. He's 100% dead. It's just spasms. And then he gasped for air, right? So then Katie again told the doctors, he said, no, it's a reflex action. And I want to know, like, if he's now been dead for like 2 and a bit hours, like, why is his body reflexing? Like that in itself is like a very strange thing to say, but you know, Anyway, I mean, I haven't been at a body farm. I don't know what happens after death. So then Kate ignored the doctors and instead placed a little bit of breast milk on her finger and placed it in Jamie's mouth, and he fed. Then he started to breathe normally, and then he opened his eyes, held out his hand and grabbed the mum's finger. And so that is from a Daily Mail article in 2010, right? So the emotion is love, right? So love is the most powerful emotion in the world, right? And actually love is a 528 hertz. And there's loads of research into 528 hertz. And with regards to it actually triggers DNA repair, right? So I mean, I have a 528 hertz tuning fork. I must have put it away, that I will ding, right? So you may not feel it, right? You may not feel it because, you know, if your body's decrepit, it takes a while. But so what do I think happened? Well, we are energetic beings. They can measure your emotions, so they can measure the energy that's coming off you, off your heart from up to 3 feet away. They know that if you are around a dog or a horse, is that both your frequencies will synchronize. So this is why like horses are great for, you know, therapy. For therapy, same as dogs are great for therapy, and dogs are actually empathetic, and by empathetic it is different to sympathetic. So empathetic means that they feel your pain and want to make you kind of better and understand what you're feeling, right? So they feel and understand your pain, whereas sympathy is, well, I can mentally comprehend what you're talking about, but I don't empathize with you because I've never felt it personally. So I can sympathize with somebody who's broken their leg because it sounds painful, but I've never broken a bone, like touch wood. Like why is there like literal no wood? Because this is like covered. Why do we touch wood anyway? Anyway, so I can sympathize with somebody who's broken a leg, but I can't empathize. I can empathize with somebody who is trying to commit their own life because they've been there, right? So I genuinely understand what that feels like, and I can feel those exact same emotions. It's not me kind of mentally comprehending. I get that sign to feel. So dogs actually they've proven they empathize, and I would assume that horses also similarly empathize because of the entrainment and synchronicity between the frequencies of the cells, like cellular frequency shifts. So if you are in a low energetic state, low frequency, and you hug a horse, I mean, not just a random horse in a field. I mean, it can be a random horse in a field, but I wouldn't just go into a field and start hugging horses if you don't know the horse, right? That's a recipe for a disaster. Or you know, you can hug your dog, but I wouldn't, again, just, you know, kind of like accost dogs in the street. But you can just go and what happens is the energy synchronizes. So if you are low energy, the dog energy will transfer to you because it always goes, travels down, right? Path of least resistance. And that's like, this is kind of like understanding physics and current flow. So energy will travel and synchronize. So in the case of the mum, like she had like all this love energy, and so rather than, you know, so she was like phenomenal in my mind, because rather than feeling sad, and I mean she obviously did feel sad, but actually the love bond was so strong with this mum. The love energy was the thing that was being transferred, right? And when you kind of understand, right, so when you project energy out, it kind of comes back, because that's, you know, expansion and contraction. The universe is at the moment really, really slowly expanding. When we breathe, we expand and contract. Energy is the same. And so I've said before, like, karma's not a bitch, it's just a boomerang, and what you put out, you get back, right? So had the mum been projecting out, you know, sadness, despondency, despair, do I believe that a little child would have come back to life? No, because that's not the frequency of DNA healing, right? So whatever was going on with that little boy, the skin to skin contact, because by skin to skin contact, you actually increase the speed and the speed of the energy transfer, right? So when people do Reiki, they don't always put their hands on, but it would be more effective if they went skin to skin. And we actually do have, nerve endings and energy like holes in our hands. There was a really cool experiment back in like the 1870s, 1880s, where they put people who were like psychic and could see auras, and they put them in like dark rooms. And it's like not like isolating them, but they put them in a dark room, and they had like I had a person in there who was kind of reading the aura, and they literally saw like one's red energy, one's blue energy, right? And I would hazard a guess is it wasn't blue, it was more like violet colored, and what they're seeing is the opposite ends of the frequency spectrum, right? Because the visible light spectrum, but on a different level, right? And if you kind of hold your hands together, you can kind of feel the energy between your hands, transferring. And if you've ever had like Reiki, sometimes you have like hot, sometimes it feels hot, sometimes it feels cold. But so there's like just like a gazillion bits of research, but that was a really cool study. I mean, I can't ever remember which way around it was, but it doesn't matter anyway, because if you're left-handed, it'll be different, because your brain will be wired the other way around, which people don't kind of talk about very much, right? Your brain's literally wired the other way, which means like all of the portions of the brain that we associate with right thinking is in the left portion, right? So this is another reason why the left right brain is bullshit, because it's literally different. And anyway, they kind of communicate with each other. So I've got really off topic. So love is the frequency that can literally revive the dead, as Katie Ogg and others since then have proven. And actually, that led to, I think they call it the kangaroo something or other. So this is why now, they will take the baby, clean it up a little bit. Sometimes clean it up. I mean, sometimes they just give the mum gunk baby, which sounds horrific, but so you have skin to skin contact right at the beginning. I mean, whether the midwives and all of those are aware it's because of energy transfer and they're literally healing the child, who knows? But that is why they kind of started doing skin to skin contact, was because of it was called the kangaroo. I can't remember. My apologies. Kangaroo something or other. But that's where that all came from. So it literally revived the dead. So 5 to 8 frequency hertz also was kind of like played the oil spill. There was a huge oil spill, and it got rid of the oil spill. So they've shown it actually trigger cellular healing, like under microscope. So you play the frequency and it starts the DNA repair process. Does this mean somebody who's been Ronavaxed can play 5 to 8 and detox? No. It's just because there's another PsyOp that's still going on, that you can detox your DNA. If you've been mRNA'd, your code has been changed. Would it potentially mitigate and heal the things that are being damaged? I believe wine, yeah, absolutely not, right? Because that's what it is. I mean, same as like frankincense, right? And so then, you can get into the frequency of essential oils, but so frankincense does the same thing. It triggers DNA repair. And also triggers like cell apoptosis. So that's like death of cancer cells, right? Which your body does anyway. So your body does these things, right? This is not like you play the music and without the music, it's not going to do it. If you are in a happy, healthy state, your body's doing that anyway. But just if you are struggling, these things can kind of enable you to feel good. So love frequency, and the PsyOp around love frequency is that it's green. It isn't. It's kind of like a weird yellow color. So you can literally, because it's The visible light spectrum doesn't change color just because you want it to, is the thing that I would say, because that really pissed me off. I can give you the exact color. I'm sure it's like a weird yellow color. And I kept seeing people going, oh yeah, it's like green because the heart chakra. And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense, because yeah, it's this one. Me notes. Yeah, it's yellow. So the reason why 528 hertz is yellow is because the light terahertz, 510 to 530 is yellow. So it falls within that. So it's whether it's hertz, terahertz, gigahertz, it's the same set of it's the same set of colors and sounds, just not necessarily that we can see or hear, right? So where the heart chakra is actually 594. So 528 hertz is not the heart chakra. It is the third one. So we have, this is lies. People give you lies. What we got? We got root. Oh, I always get them upside down. There we go. Root, sacral, solar plexus, right? So that's the yellow one. Root, sacral, solar plexus. Heart is a different. It's green. So just in case you see people telling you that 528 hertz is heart chakra, right? Yeah. But that's the color, right? That's the actual legit color based on frequency. And I only like science, right? When there's like, it's not bullshit science. It's not the love frequency because it's linked into your heart chakra. It's the love frequency because it's linked into triggering DNA repair, which happens to be yellow. So could you perhaps use you probably use any of those colors. So why yellow? Well, according to a book from a very long time ago, I mean like 1910, it's to do with the magnetic field is in the kind of yellow range. So sound red, electric orange, magnetic yellow. And then, so every current that's an electric current will also have a magnetic current because that's just how it works. So there was a video saying that the sun's magnetic and the earth's electric and we're electromagnetic because we're both, and no. Every electric current has a magnetic field. Like that's science stuff. Also, the people lie with regards to Solfeggio scales by telling you, it's XYZ letter, and it isn't. Like, because they want it to be like you can't force shit. If you are having to force something into a box, then your box is wrong, right? So it doesn't matter. But just give the truth on everything. That's what we're doing, giving the truth. So why yellow then? Magnetic field. I mean, so that's what we're projecting out, isn't it? There you go, yellow. So love frequency 528 hertz is yellow, and it's part of the magnetic field rather than the electric so green is thought, and then blue is mind, then we got will, and then we got soul. These are the forces that, and he's got like it's a frequency and vibrational scale. Like this guy, Peter Pearson, he literally created a therapy based on healing with sound and light. They tested different sounds and seeing colors. And, do you notice this guy's not called Rife? He's called Peter Pearson, and he was before Rife. But, just throwing that out there. And so he did light and sound. And what they actually did is they developed a whole methodology where you can trigger healing because of the like light bulbs that you were using, and or you can put so if you had the right yellow glass and you put water in the glass, you could then you put it on the windowsill. And why would you put it on the windowsill? Is because you're getting like the natural UV light, and it would it charges it. But if it was yellow, it would bounce. I mean, I only kind of like skimmed the book because I don't do like light therapy, right? So I just read the science behind how did he figure out the colors and how did he figure out the sounds, like where did the sounds and the colors come from. It was a great book. But they were like healing like all sorts of like phenomenal things. And so what we have now, so we have like blue light therapy, right? Because it's like some novel fucking idea, but the sun's blue light, the sun heals. This guy was doing it 115 years ago, like an entire like catalogue of like people on their like close to going being healed by putting like a room which is just like the certain frequency, color and sound working together, and people were like miraculously healed, right? Because it doesn't really happen. You know, it's all in your mind. But we already know that sounds match certain colors because of synesthesia. So where sound and sight in your brain kind of like they're really kind of the bits that interpret sound and sight end up sharing like a brain connection. And so, you know, they can see sounds as colors, and really excitingly for me, but not for them who have it, right? Even when they're reading, right? When they're reading, they can see colors. So they will be experiencing the frequency of the words, because, you know, when you read, you make the words in your brain. So then when you, in your brain, you have the brain waves. So you have different frequencies of every word that you're saying, right? So that's how they're literally reading and seeing the colors. So what we need is to speak to somebody with synesthesia, and we'll be like, okay, well, when I ding my thing, what color do you see, right? That's how we need to kind of settle this argument. But according to the visible light spectrum and the frequency of the light, which, you know, physics has done lots of stuff looking into and tracking, it's yellow. So bumblebees are love then, because they are yellow, and wasps though. And on that bombshell, so thank you for joining me. But yes, so love literally revived the dead. And if you are feeling sad, go and borrow a horse, but make sure it's you're not randomly accosting horses and dogs. Or, you know, you can hug somebody you know and love. You know, and actually if it's you know, and even whether it's human, dog or horse, is you then get the oxytocin feedback loop. And oxytocin's a really exciting, I'm gonna leave because I need to eat my dinner. Oxytocin is a really exciting hormone because, unlike serotonin and dopamine, which you have to perpetually create, we store oxytocin. So you can you don't have to create it if you already have some. So you can already tap into it just by visualizing getting a hug. I mean, actually, if you visualize anyway, you will probably trigger the release of other hormones, but you store it, so it's always there, right? It's there in the background, but you can flood your body when you have a hug. Not so much the guys though. That's kind of like there's like a critical window. I'm pretty sure it's about 50. Can I remember? It's between 10 and 15 seconds, right? So when girls are starting to really feel the oxytocin flow, guys are their oxytocin starting to turn off. It's really interesting, right? So this is why guys start to fall. So dogs and horses tend not to reject you as quickly as your partner, right? That's why I've got 3 dogs, right? One of them's going to get annoyed with me and I just go hug the other one. Look, it's science. Have a look into it, enjoy it. Pay attention to the shills. Let's see what happens tomorrow with the election. It's going to be sunny. There's going to be Labour out in droves. I do think Conservatives will disintegrate even more. But I think people have forgotten the independents. In Telford, the independents weren't, other than me, and there was one other person. So there was and I mean, like my portion of Telford, there was me and one other, but there was like 9 independents. There was 2 who were, and then the others were like Labour stooges. So be careful. It's very easy to infiltrate a party. And, people will be like, oh, I don't trust Labour anymore. Don't know whether I believe you. So have yourself an amazing rest of this week. I shall see you next Tuesday at 7. See you then.